Hey, guys, welcome to the Explanation Pro. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 1995 horror comedy Dracula Dead and Loving as usual. There will be spoilers ahead, so take them with a grain of subscribe recap channel salt, and let's get started. It is based on the novel. Titled Dracula, written by Bram Stoker. The movie is set in a place called Transylvania in the year 1893. We see a lawyer named Thomas Renfield who comes to Transylvania from London to attend a meeting. They get irritated when the person driving their carriage is driving harshly. One of the passengers looks outside to tell the person to be more careful, but he observes that the sun is about to set. The charioteer tells them that he will not slow down as they must reach their destination before sunset. They finally reach the village, but by the time they reach the village, Thomas Renfield is disoriented because of the bumpy ride. He says that he must go further, but the charioteer refuses to take him. As it is night, Thomas Renfield decides to go there on foot, but the villagers are worried about seeing a stranger who wants to roam outside during the night. He says that he came to visit Dracula. He does not know that Dracula is a vampire. The villagers warn him that Dracula is a vampire and that he lives in a castle full of vampires. That is the reason why everybody is afraid of the night. A lady comes toward him, shows him the Holy Cross, and leaves. Even after all this, he is not convinced, and he continues his journey on foot. He goes to the castle and sees that it is full of cobwebs and dust. He understands that the place has not been in use for a long time now. The door opens on its own, and he enters the castle. Dracula enters the scene and tells his famous dialogue referring to the children of the night. As he is walking, his shadow tries to go towards Thomas, but he controls it. Thomas Renfield comes her regarding a property in England. Dracula wants to buy the property, and he brings some documents along with him. He sings the documents. Suddenly, Thomas gets hit, and his blood is everywhere. Dracula's mouth starts to water as he looks at the blood, but he somehow controls his urges. Thomas sleeps there for the night. The next morning, he wakes up to see two ladies who are Dracula's wives. They are vampires too. They pound on him at the same time. Thomas gets scared. Dracula enters the room before anything can happen. He tries to tell him that it is just a bad dream and that nothing really happened. As Thomas refuses to believe it, Dracula hypnotizes him. Thomas becomes a slave to Dracula. That night they leave for London. Dracula wants to stay in the house he just bought. They travel to London on a ship named Demeter. Thomas carries Dracula in a coffin but forgets to lock it. Dracula gets uncomfortable and irritated in it and comes out. Despite Thomas's efforts to keep him in the coffin, Dracula is hungry and kills and drinks everyone's blood except for Thomas. The next day, when the ship reaches London, the officials find the dead bodies and consider Thomas guilty. They think that he is mentally ill because of all the things he is saying and admit him into an asylum. Dracula moves into his new house and makes friends with his new neighbors. They are Dr. Seward, who is the head of the asylum, his daughter Mina's fiance, Seward's assistant Jonathan Harker, and their family friend Lucy. They have dinner together, and Dracula finds Lucy interesting, and she feels the same. Later that night, she gives him clear signs that she is into him. He becomes a bat and tries to go into Lucy's room in the middle of the night when Lucy is sleeping, but Lucy feels cold and closes the window, which makes Dracula fall down, but he still manages to get up and get into the room. But the sound wakes Seward, and he comes to find no one. Dracula is hidden by hanging from the roof. Seward closes the door loudly while leaving Lucy's room. Due to that, Dracula falls down and Lucy wakes up, but he hides from her after Seward leaves. He starts drinking Lucy's blood and covers her face with a cape. Then we see Thomas, who is still in the asylum and is going mad. Seward, who happens to be the doctor for Thomas, calls him to have tea as he hopes Thomas will get better with some human interaction. But Thomas goes crazy due to Dracula's hypnotism earlier. He does not drink tea and tries to catch and eat the insects in his surroundings. So Ard asks Thomas if he is eating the insect, but he denies it. But the doctor could see the insect hanging out of his mouth. Then he starts getting uncontrollable and goes after other insects. The doctor understands that he is beyond cure and takes him back to the asylum. Lucy's health as bad as Dracula drank most of her blood. Nobody knows about that in the house. They see the tooth marks left by Dracula on Lucy's neck and understand that there is something weird that is happening. They immediately call Professor Van Helsing, who is a genius and also a specialist in special cases like this. This role is played by the director himself. He is with his students in a lab, teaching them about autopsy. His students could not witness a dead body and faint in the class, despite assuring the professor that they would not. Even those who managed to stay for some time faint after a while. A nurse enters and gives him the letter, which requests him to go look at Lucy, as something weird is happening. On the other hand, Dracula wakes up and sees the sun. He is in the sun, but nothing is happening to him. He is happy that he is finally able to walk in the sun. He thinks that loosest blood cured him. He gets excited and goes out into the garden to explore his new powers. He drinks wine, and nothing happens to him. Vampires only drink blood. Anything else they consume is equal to poison for them. But he is finally able to enjoy wine. Then he meets Thomas, who is free from the asylum. Just as he is enjoying his powers, his suit starts to burn due to the sun. We see that all of this is just a bad dream. He wakes up from his dream, disappointed that he did not get any powers. He sees that it is still night outside. Van Helsing arrives at Lucy's house and takes a look at her. He sees the teeth marks on Lucy's neck and confirms that a vampire did this. Jonathan and Seward do not believe him. They asked him about modern science, if they thought modern science would cure this. They should not have called him. Van Helsing says that the vampire who did this to Lucy will come back to finish what he started. He says that the vampire will drink all of Lucy's blood and kill her. They believe him and start referring to books to find ways to help Lucy. They figure out that vampires hate garlic and fill Lucy's room with it. Lucy keeps getting sicker by the second. She is not able to sleep properly because of the garlic smell in her room. As expected, Dracula comes back to drink Lucy's blood. As there is garlic in her room, he is not able to eat. There inside, then he goes to his servant, Thomas, to do his dirty work. He goes to the asylum and breaks the bars on the windows. As Thomas is mad, he does not get down slowly and directly jumps off the window. He goes into Lucy's and starts removing the garlic as his master ordered. Then he sees Lucy and gets distracted. He goes near her and she wakes up. She panics as there is a stranger in her room and shouts. Thomas starts shouting at her. Everyone in the house is now awake and has come to Lucy's room then. A-ring Thomas here and take him back to the asylum. Dracula still has not gotten what he wanted and is standing outside. He is mad at himself for including a fool like Thomas for this task. Thomas locks all the doors and windows, and Lucy is finally getting some sleep. Dracula is stubborn and wants to drink Lucy's blood. He tries to hypnotize Lucy. As a last try, his hypnotism works on her, and she willingly comes out of the house and does not make any noise. She calmly lets Dracula drink her blood. While Mina sees that Lucy is out and a man is drinking her blood, she shouts, waking everyone, but it is too late. By the time they arrive, Dracula has escaped, and Lucy is dead. They arrange a funeral for Lucy on the next day. Helsing is very disappointed and is worried as he thinks that Lucy will now become a vampire and come back to life. Jonathan and Seward do not believe him. Seward says that there is no chance for a vampire to exist in a country like England. Van Helsing tries to convince them and say that they should drive a wooden stake through Lucy's heart so that she will actually die, but they do not agree with this. Then Dracula enters. Helsing gets a bad vibe from him and suspects that he is the vampire that killed Lucy, but no one else has any doubts about him and talks to him in a friendly way. Both Van Helsing and Dracula had heard of each other before they have an intense conversation that eventually turns into an argument. Dracula leaves. He is now almost certain that he is the one who killed Lucy, as all of this started happening after he moved into the neighborhood. Van Helsing considers Dracula a suspect, but is not completely sure if he is the one. A caretaker is appointed to stay at Lucy's grave. He suddenly starts hearing sounds from Lucy's grave. She asking him to help. He opens the grave to see Lucy perfectly healthy and all right. If anything, she looks better and younger now. He tries to help her get out, but instead she bites him and drains his blood completely. He does then, and there Van Helsing also arrives at this place and finds the gatekeeper's dead body. His guess is right, and Lucy is a vampire now. At the same time, Jonathan is worried and thinks that maybe Van Helsing is right. He takes Seward's permission and heads to the Grey. He finds Lucy alive at the Grey. Lucy tries to trap him, but he does not get fooled by her act, so she forcefully tries to drink his blood. Fortunately, Van Helsing is in the same place and saves Jonathan by pointing across at Lucy. Jonathan is alive, and Lucy has not fed on him yet. Lucy goes in and hides in the coffin. They consider this the right time to kill her. Jonathan gets a wooden stake and a hammer and asks him to kill Lucy. He is scared and does not know what to do. He reluctantly picks up the stake and hammer and kills Lucy. Meanwhile, Dracula is trying to get to Mina. He tries to hypnotize her, but it is not working properly as there is a maid in the room, and the commands are getting confusing. He goes in, gets confused, and picks up that maid, so he returns back to Mina. He takes her to his mansion, dances with her for a while, and then bites her. He wants to make her his wife. The next day, Jonathan goes to Mina. She is acting weird. Seward comes to her room, and Jonathan tells her the same something is wrong. Van Helsing comes to see her. Takes off Mina's scarf to reveal a set of vampire's teeth. They are not ready to lose another member of the family. They decided to find the vampire who was doing this to their family. They arrange a party to reveal Dracula's true nature. They also invite Thomas, as they doubt he is doing Dracula's dirty work. They arrange a mirror where he is dancing, and see that there is no reflection in the mirror. That is how vampires are. They are convinced that Dracula is doing this, and try to go after him, but he escapes Thomas as a fool, and unknowingly reveals his master's location to them. Van Helsing and Dracula have a huge fight. Dracula is stronger than he is, and is leading. The sun is rising now, and Van uses his as an opportunity and opens the windows. Dracula turns into a bat and hides in the corner. Thomas climbs up the roof and finds Dracula hiding. He wishes to save his master and opens the whole thing, but the sunlight comes in and Dracula burns and dies. Mina wakes up as soon as Dracula dies, as she is free of his control. Seward tells Thomas that he is free. Now Thomas says yes, master, and starts going behind Seward. That's all for today's video, and thanks for watching it. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, let me know in the comments below which movie you want me to cover in the next video. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.